It is extraordinary, friends. You've heard it. You've heard it. There's a connection between breathing and, having back injury and the lack of symphony that could lead to it. And obviously we've all heard about sitting down in offices, and now, in this modern era, as you may know, that in offices you have keyboards that are slightly tilted, where your legs sit. You have these support sort of cushions at the bottom to support you, because it's people are starting to know about it. Health and safety. We know that sitting down is not good for you, and as some of the things that Tristan mentioned about controlling the environment, whether a workplace, it's filtering out bad air. And I can tell you, as I have a part-time job where I work in an office environment, I think they have air conditioning, but I don't think they have anything that filters out bad air. But I do notice that they do have plants. So whether plants help, I'm sure there is evidence that plants can filter out. But in a big office environment, how beneficial is it? I don't know. But something is better than nothing anyhow. But just alluding to what we can control as people, or being aware of our environment. There are things that we can actually control, like the environment that we're in. If there's a lot of litter, we can do litter picking. We shouldn't have to even do litter picking in the first place if everyone got rid of their, disposable stuff into the right bins and got rid of it instead of just chucking it on the ground, because these can all contribute to bad air, plastics and cardboard and all sorts of stuff. I'm just touching upon things that I can remember what Tristan mentioned. So yeah, the controllables, but I'll get Tristan to talk about why lead is bad for our health and why lead is in the environment in the first place. Why is lead in the roofs that we have in the first place? And I'm assuming it's all to do with the industrial age, when things were building and they wanted new buildings at a faster rate. And so if you don't mind, Tristan, tell us why lead is bad for the health, or in whatever order you prefer. How did we have so much lead in our offices, in our buildings, in our industrial areas, if you don't mind?
Goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you want a bit of a focus, I guess we start at the beginning, which is that mankind has been digging up and processing lead-containing rocks, so producing materials out of lead for the last 8,000 years.
Wow.
And there is only one period of history within that 8,000 years during which there was no evidence of airborne lead pollution, and that actually coincided with the Black Death, because there was no activity going on that was producing the lead fumes. And when you say fumes, it's not just something that's gaseous. You're talking about a fume is a really, really fine particle. Mm-hmm. So as we were mining and processing lead, the Romans made lead pipes. The word plumbum, the Latin for lead, is the origin of the word plumber, because of that lead pipe connection. But what happened as history, as we woke up to the geology that is beneath us, is that lead-containing ores coincided very much with silver-containing ores. So absolutely, there's a connection between the use of silver, particularly by the Romans for making coins, so creating money, and lead production. And what's interesting is that it was that financial driver, which is a driver of so much of what we do in the modern world, was absolutely at the heart of why a lead compound, tetraethyl lead, was added to petrol in the 1920s, even though it was known that lead exposure was neurotoxic. The guys in the petrol industry decided that absolutely we're going to go ahead with producing leaded petrol.
That's criminal.
And as a result, lead became the most widespread environmental toxin.
Good Lord. You know what? I'm glad I asked you that question, and you just gave us gems of history and the connections with it. Yes, definitely. When the Romans were introducing coins and money and salaries for the army, they put lead in the coins. That could be the start of it. But what these guys who added lead to petroleum and they knew that it was bad and harmful, it's just beyond words. Like how criminal it is. And I'm not sure. I'll look into this as well, whether a case has been opened against these people who knew that it's harmful for us, but they still added it to petroleum, and just for the greediness of money, and it's just unbelievable. But yeah, it's interesting. Now we've got a brief history of how lead has become what it is and in our environment. If you can just tell us what we as the ordinary people can do to limit our exposure and to control our environment to an extent. I understand in some Asian countries, like for example China and Southeast Asia, they all wear masks to protect themselves. Even before the pandemic and after the pandemic, they all wear masks. Even here in South Yorkshire, we have a lot of Chinese students and so on. They all wear masks. Majority of them that I've seen wear masks to protect themselves from harmful things in the air that we don't see. So that's quite interesting why they do it and we don't do it. And do they know something that we don't know? And maybe you can touch upon it, Tristan.
Well, I think in response to that, Jodka, the leaded petrol and the fumes that come from its use collect in floor, ceiling and roof spaces in all buildings.
Yes.
And it's been doing that for 80 years. Lead in petrol in the UK, at least, was banned from the 1st of January 2000. Okay?
Wow.
Only that recently, and it's only literally in the last couple of years that I don't think there are now any more countries in the world that actually put lead in petrol. Interesting that the last manufacturer in the world of tetraethyl lead was actually a UK manufacturer. Funny that.
Wow.
But it's not just lead in petrol, it's also the use of lead in paint.
Paint, yeah?
Yep. And of course, in fact, the Health and Safety Executive in the UK, back at the end of 2014, advised that all painted material, even modern paint, should be assumed to contain lead. And a really important thing to qualify this is that if you ask a health and safety specialist or most people, they'll say, oh, they stopped adding lead to paint. And that's absolutely right. But stopping the addition of lead formally in a way that means it needs to be recorded as one of the ingredients in the composition of a paint overlooks the fact that because lead became, and arguably still is, the most widespread environmental toxin, it's still present at contaminant level in the raw ingredients that go into the manufacture of modern paint.
Yeah, I see.
So that means that the phrase no added lead can misguide you into thinking that what you're using or what has gone on before is actually lead-free, and it's absolutely not. And that's really important because, like so many things in our environment, the effects of lead and other toxic substances is cumulative. So if people are familiar with asbestos, which is this fireproof, fibrous material that still is responsible for killing about 5,000 people a year in the UK from legacy occupational exposure.
Yes.
It can take 20, 30, 40 years for asbestos-related problems to become visible. One of the other problems with lead exposure is that you've actually got to go looking for the problem. And the crazy thing is, as in terms of its particular effect on child behaviour and brain development, the biggest impacts in terms of reduced IQ occur at the lowest levels. And interestingly, where we are in South Yorkshire, alongside Humberside, as a region in the UK, the measured blood lead levels of children in that part of the UK are 6 times higher than the next nearest region.
Good Lord. Why is that? Because of this area?
And that's because of Sheffield's industrial history. It's one of 3 or 4 hotspots in the UK. Huge steel making and other metals-based manufacturing mean that the legacy issue of lead is particularly strong, significant, but it applies everywhere. And the thing is, because it's an element, it just gets recycled. So there's a lot of things that people can be doing at home, not just for lead, but for all sorts of other contaminants, to use HEPA-filtered vacuum cleaners instead of standard vacuum cleaners, because if you don't take out the contaminants, you're just recirculating them.
Absolutely.
And that applies to the schools that children go to.
Yep.
You know, if you've got cleaners using George and Henry, you know, those smiley face vacuum cleaners, if there's any contamination in there, and there's highly likely to be, you're just recirculating that exposure risk potential.
It's very interesting.
And so there's a huge gap of awareness and non-compliance, not just in construction, but the people, the clients of the construction industry, and just day-to-day wear and tear on existing painted surfaces.
It's amazing, man. Listen, guys, I'd vote this guy in to be the executive of health and safety here in the UK and beyond. The guy is full of knowledge, wisdom, and honestly, the things that he's touching upon make sense, they're factual, and, you know, they need to give this guy a position where he can make some changes in our environment. You know, you need people like this in high places that are knowledgeable, not just giving us fluff. And it's amazing, you know, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about these sort of stuff, and hopefully people can listen to this and, you know, control the controllables. And you touched upon, you know, the environment here in South Yorkshire. There's a lot of greenery. We have the Peak District, and here I am thinking that, you know, it's great because the filtration from the trees, the fresh air, which may be the case. But obviously because of the past history, the coal mining and, you know, the steel manufacturing that Sheffield is famous for, our young kids are sort of affected when their brains are still young and developing, and it's heartbreaking to know that this is, you know, the case. And also, as a father myself, I also took upon myself to buy some filtration, HEPA filtration system, a unit, and I put it in my kids' room and I turned it on, and it's still there. And every now and then I change the filter, and you know, subconsciously it makes me feel good that at least the room that my kids are in, it's clean. It's, you know, whatever I can do within my means. And the reason I actually got there in the beginning is when my son was young, he kept on coughing and coughing to the point where he has to vomit to relax. Now, I may be verging off a bit here, but that's why I thought maybe it's the air quality. So I decided to buy this HEPA filter unit that cleans the air, filters the whole room, and there's a button there as well that you press. It gives off these things that you can't see visually that kills airborne contaminants. So I turned that on as well, and, you know, hoping that the environment that we're in, my kids are in, are good, you know, as good as can be. And here we are, we're also talking about the controllables, but lead is in our paints, it's in everywhere, and it's only recent that here in the UK, 2020, I believe you said, that they decided to 2000 to, you know, make lead not a product in paints and stuff like this, even though it's still there. Petrol fuel. So it's crazy, friends. So our health should be the priority. Control the controllables. And yeah, if you can work on your health, give up the things that you can control that are the most destructive. Like in my case, it was smoking cigarettes. So I got rid of that. Now I'm working on other stuff, like cutting down sugar in my coffee. And then the environment that you live in, you can put a filtration system. You can put some plants that are good for the air. These are just some of the things from the top of my head that I'm trying to share with you guys that we can control. If you live in an area that's litter pick, you can litter pick. You know, it also comes down to people as well, and the area that you live in as well. But yeah, it's so interesting that you talk about these stuff, Tristan. And tell us your next moves and how you plan to share the wisdom and the knowledge that you have on all these aspects, especially the harmful effects of lead and the contamination. And how do you go about now getting in touch with people that have the powers to make changes for the better and for the whole?
Well, thank you for those votes of confidence.
Yes.
As it happens, I already operate at, if you like, an industry level. So I'm a chief officer of a professional institute, the Institute of Specialist Surveyors and Engineers.
Beautiful.
And so I sit on a number of committees of the Construction Industry Council. So I'm on the Health and Safety Committee, I'm on the Liability Panel,
Wow.
I'm on the Climate Change Committee, I'm all over this like a rash.
The ball's deep in there.
I'm on the Green Construction Board of the Construction Leadership Council, so it's taken 20 years,
Wow.
but now I'm able to circulate amongst people who I have a degree of confidence in, have the ability to change things, but of course people are limited often in what they can do and how they respond to things, and of course there's a lot of people having to toe the party line, whatever that happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
So of course that is a huge barrier to change. But you talk about the controllables, Jodka, and actually
Yes.
what we haven't touched on at all is that actually the one thing that we have total control of is the way we think,
Beautiful.
how we relate to things. You know, we each have the ability to choose how we respond
Yep.
in any given moment.
Yep.
And yes, I mean, it's been said, two men sat behind prison bars, one saw mud, the other saw stars. So the ability to reframe things, to look at them and then approach them from a very different perspective, absolutely lies at the heart of the way we can live our lives better than we have been.
Beautiful. I really like that, Tristan, man. You gave us hope there by throwing that gem in, like, you know, our thinking is what we can control. And if you can look at things in a better output, in a positive output, find solutions, that's what matters, I guess. And you're right to, you know, highlight that. It's great, it's great. And as you guys can see that he's already making progress. He's still, you know, he's in touch with people that are in the same field. And, you know, he's making positive changes and he's doing his bit as an individual level and a person of authority in this field. And it's great, Tristan. It's lovely talking to you. And, yeah, I hope that we can have another sort of session like this where we can talk and see if you've made more progress, and we'll come up with more sort of stuff that we can talk about in this aspect of our environment and air quality and so on. And yeah, I appreciate your knowledge and your feedback here and sharing it with the audience here.
No, thank you, and always very happy to share.
Lovely. Thank you, guys. And if you guys have anything in mind, you resonate with what we've said or anything, please leave us a comment, give us a like so other people can see this and be wiser. Thank you, guys.